Hi, this is Mark Littleton, the minister of the Word for the Athens Church of Christ, with today's 3-minute sermon. Probably one of the greatest emotions that we are experiencing in our lives right now, all across the boards, is anxiety. Man, there's so many things that in our culture and in our hearts we're anxious about. We're anxious about things concerning the virus. Are we going to get it? Is someone we love going to get it? Are we going to unknowingly spread it to someone else? We're anxious about the unrest in our country, the racial inequality that still exists in our nation, the riots and the businesses that are being impacted by some of that civil unrest. We're worried about this fall as school begins to start back. What's that going to look like? Teachers and administrators are very concerned. Students and parents are very, very concerned. There are so many things that make our hearts anxious. So what do we do with all of that anxiety? Well, I want us to look this week at another psalm in the Old Testament, Psalm 61. This is a psalm that was written by David. If you know anything about David's life, you know that David was well acquainted with anxiety. He experienced a lot of things that would have made any of us anxious. He was the youngest of 8 brothers. We know from Scripture that sometimes, evidently, his dad sort of overlooked him. He didn't see the potential in David that he did in his other sons. From a young age, David became a soldier, a warrior, battling and defeating Goliath and then facing battle after battle after battle. All of that would have caused him anxiety. And then later on, his father-in-law, King Saul, also his best friend's father, was intent on killing him. He was so jealous of David that he pursued him all across the nation in an attempt to take his life. That's how David spent his young adult years. And then in his latter years, David watched his family begin to disintegrate. All kinds of jealousies amongst his children. Even one of his sons, Absalom, tried to rebel and take the throne away from David when David was still king. And so David was well acquainted with anxiety. But here's what we know about David. At every step of the way, David turned to God, David trusted God, and David found the strength from God that he needed in the midst of his anxiety. And later in his life, he wrote Psalm 61. And in this psalm, we're going to find David telling us and reminding us of some things that we need to remember that will help us in the midst of our anxiety. And Lord willing, this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we're going to unpack Psalm 51. And we're going to talk about how when we face real anxiety, God is able to provide real security. I hope you'll join us every day this week as we think about how God will be with us in the midst of our anxiety. Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow for another 3-minute sermon. God bless.